That is a huge, huge red flag. Worked with a business that they had made a big mistake. All of a sudden, all of their emails were going to spam.
Is there any need for marketers in a world where all the email marketing solutions are getting so automated?
Can't we just ask ChatGPT to write all these emails for us? Yes, AI tools are fantastic right now. AI tools understand your business and your audience better than any.
Hello and welcome to episode number 10 of the Marketer podcast. Together with us now here today with a 12-hour time zone difference, I guess. It's Dan Oshinsky. He's the founder of Inbox Collective, and you're helping basically companies and non-profits do better results, get better results via email, right?
That's absolutely correct. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for taking up on our invitation. Usually, normal podcasts start soft, but we don't start soft, and we start hard and fast. And my first question to you is this: is there any need for marketers in a world where all the email marketing solutions are getting so automated that sometimes you feel that maybe the machine is better than you as a marketer?
I think there is still very much a place for humans in the marketing landscape for a few reasons. One is you understand your business and your audience better than any AI tool, better than any automation, better than any robot ever will. You understand more about who your audience is, what motivates them, what they care about. Yes, AI tools are fantastic right now as productivity tools, as companions to help you get work done. But you understand your business. You understand why you started this, who you're doing this for, why it makes a difference in someone's life in a way that a lot of these automated tools simply cannot at this point. So yeah, there's still very much a
Need
place
for
for all
people.
of us. We're not going away just yet.
Just yet. Yeah, I remember totally off topic, but I remember a quote from this Top Gun movie, the second movie of Top Gun, when with Tom Cruise, when some kind of commander told him, you will be replaced by drones, and he says, maybe so, but not today. Today you still need me.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I need to challenge you on that. And my challenge is this: sometimes, as marketers, we think about what drives customer intention and eventually purchase, what our brand stands for, this kind of deep business and marketing questions. But sometimes we really can't find the answer. Sometimes the answer is rather in the statistics, as we see in other media like ads, where the algorithm doesn't really understand what drives the customer to buy. It just see different signals and says, okay, if I have this signal and this signal and this signal, then he is or she is more prone to buy this pair of jeans.
Mhm.
Don't we have the same risk here?
A lot of the teams that I work with are newsrooms, they're publishers, and they're nonprofits. And in my space, I'll talk with clients who let's say it's a nonprofit who's doing an end of the year fundraising campaign. And they'll go, can't we just ask ChatGPT to write all these emails for us? But the thing is, the emails that most connect with the audience and that drive the best results are the ones that tend to be the most personal, the most human. They're the ones that tell an unusual story about who someone is and what they care about, or the impact that your nonprofit has had in the community, that sort of thing. And those emails really cannot be automated, because you could, I suppose, give ChatGPT a biography of yourself and say, read this, and then write a great email based on it. But it misses out on some of the, the essence of really who you are and why you do the work that you do. And so what I look at when I look across all the different types of brands that use email, from individuals who are starting a newsletter to build a business or sell a subscription, to big publishers, to nonprofits, to e-commerce companies, is that when you have that human element, when there is a bits of personality in there that connects with the audience, it stands out. Because the one thing, again, the AI tools are so good at so many things, but one thing they are not good at right now is having a unique voice. And when you look at some of the best brands, the best organizations out there, what stands out about them is that they sound different. They don't sound like anybody else. They have a unique mission, they have a unique purpose.
And
And
that's
that's where we come in to make sure that every time, it's something that I do with a lot of my publisher clients, my newsroom clients. Sometimes if I'm just starting to work with a newsroom, I'll take some of their recent subscription messaging. Hey, buy a subscription to our product for, $1 for a week for the next 12 weeks, that sort of thing. And I
Mhm.
will take their recent emails, and then I will take a few emails from other newsrooms across the country, and I will remove the logo, and I will remove the mention of their organization. And
Yeah.
then I ask them, you worked on these emails, which one of these is yours? And on a regular basis, when I do this with teams, if they'll look at these emails, multiple emails, and they will be unable to figure out which is the email they worked on, wrote, and sent recently to their own audience.
That is a
And
good one.
and that's where it comes back. And I go, okay, if you all, the people who worked on these emails, can't tell that it's yours, it doesn't stand out as unique to you, and you wrote them, what's going to stand out to that audience that's going to make them say, oh, of course, this is why I need to pay,
Mhm.
$5 a month or $100 a year, whatever the rate is for access to your subscription. It's missing that voice. It's missing that personal touch. So again, to me, that sort of thing cannot yet be replicated in a consistent way. That's where we come in to make sure, often I'll tell teams, use the AI tools to brainstorm ideas, brainstorm subject line ideas, or maybe a topic that you're overlooking. But then you have to do the work to go out and make sure that your voice and your story are part of whatever you're actually sending out there.
Indeed, indeed. Let me ask you another quite specific question, uh, connecting to something that you just said regarding call to action. And it's a fascinating topic because usually we have our speakers and our customers in the e-commerce area, and you talking about non-profits or not selling physical stuff necessarily.
Mhm.
It's fascinating. What would be a good call to action? Should we like subscribe now, or should we start building relationship, like explore now and then ask for the money?
This is my favorite consultant answer that everyone hates. It depends. It really does. To me, the most important thing, I'll answer your question in a second, but I tell this story often about this idea that every year there's always some big piece of research in the email space that comes out and says, we've studied all these different businesses and discovered that companies that use purple buttons sell more stuff. And then
Yes.
everybody starts using purple buttons.
Mm.
If your colors are red or green or blue, it doesn't matter. We need to use purple buttons because this study said purple. Got to use
Yeah.
purple buttons. It's going to increase our click through rates by 2%. But what happens is that people lose the instead of the forest for the trees. They forget about what it is that makes them special and unique. And also, teams are often too quick to accept this piece of advice from someone else and say, this is the gospel. This is what everyone should be doing. When the truth is, any idea that you hear out there, whether it's your button should be a certain color, or here's how long your email should be, or should you keep people in the inbox or send them elsewhere, CTAs, what they should look like. Everything that you hear, you should go, oh, that's an interesting idea. We should try and figure out what our version of that is, and we should test it out for ourselves.
Nice.
So for me, with a CTA, one is I always like calls to action that are very specific. The more specific the call to action, the better in general. There are exceptions to the rule. Some teams are a little bit more playful with their calls to action. Some teams are a little bit more mysterious with the language. Some teams go really short and some teams go long. But in general, direct calls to action tend to perform really, really well. My personal favorite when I work with newsrooms, for instance, is I always encourage my teams to clean their email lists on a regular basis to make sure you're not sending to people who haven't opened an email in a while. You know, it's bad for deliverability. It's bad for engagement. Let's make sure we're keeping our list clean. We only want to be sending to those active email subscribers. And I usually encourage teams to send a few different types of emails, but one of them is what I call the last chance email. Hey, you haven't opened an email from us in a couple months and you've ignored our win back series. So we're going to give you one last chance to open this email. Click this button in the email and we'll keep sending you our newsletter. Otherwise, we're going to try to be friendly neighbors and we're going to take you off our email list. We don't want to send you emails if they're not valuable. And I've tested a lot of different subject lines over the years, but the one that has always done really well is, do you still want newsletters from us? And it works because it's so direct.
As simple as possible.
Exactly what, yeah, exactly. You know exactly what you're doing when you open the email. What am I doing? I'm going to open the email and I'm going to decide, do I still want emails from this company? Yes or no. I'm just making a choice. And so I think more organizations could take that and apply it to their strategy. If I want to get someone to buy something, to test something, to give us feedback on something, to explore, why not just connect the dots at the start? Tell them up front what you're getting with the subject line and the pre-header text. Be really clear, then get people in to take that action and repeat the call to action there. I love that, but there's room to play with all this sort of thing because sometimes you want to, you know, depending on the voice of your organization, you want to be a little bit more playful or a little bit more serious. You want to try different things because people do get tired of seeing the same things over and over again. They get used
10%
to
off for
yes.
our. Yeah. Let me ask you a loaded question, and you can choose not to answer this.
Sure.
How about political campaigns emails? I know you're up for an important election in November. Here in Romania, we are also up for election, also for president. Did you ever interacted with this political area?
A couple things. One is I grew up just outside of Washington, D.C. So I have a lot of experience growing up around politics because a lot of my neighbors and friends growing up were people who worked in politics. Now I have a lot of friends who work in Washington and government agencies. So I've been exposed to this in that way, but in a more practical way with email. When I first started working in this space, I got a great piece of advice. There's a guy who works for a group called INMA, the International News Media Association. His name is Greg Pacoda. He's based in the UK. Lovely, lovely guy. And Greg had a great piece of advice, which is, Dan, go sign up for everything. Sign up for newsletters from other news organizations, from nonprofits, from businesses, and even political campaigns. And his advice, I'll never forget this, Greg said, you'll probably learn more about what not to do from politics emails than what to do, but you'll still learn something. And he's absolutely right. And I still try to keep that piece of advice in mind today, because when I look at politics emails here in the US, we have very different laws around what political emails can do. And one thing that politicians and political emails often do with their campaigns that I find pretty shady, I think it's a bad tactic, is they'll use subject lines and they'll use sent from names to try to trick people into opening emails. Or they'll use calls to action within the email that are deceptive. So right now here in the US, I'm getting a lot of emails lately that will have a call to action inside that say things like, and it doesn't matter who the campaign is, you know, in the
Let's
two
stay
big ones,
out
right?
of the
Yeah.
debate.
So, but it'll say, you're the last person who hasn't done what fill in the blank for this candidate. You haven't
Uh-huh.
voted, you haven't filled out this form, you haven't donated money. You're the last person. Like,
So
I'm
really
not
deceptive. I mean, it's
Yes,
not.
I'm not the last person. Or if we desperately need this $5 now to do what, and okay, you're trying to raise money. I know you're trying to raise money. That's what politicians in the US do. There are also political campaigns that will send things. I mentioned sent from names. I got one not too long ago where the sent from name it was just flight confirmation, and then it had a series of numbers and letters.
Come on, this
And
is almost phishing like email.
yes, it looks like a phishing campaign. This is
Yeah.
spam. And then inside, the way they tried to do it was to say, our campaign is taking off. Oh, it is. Oh, come on. Really? No, no,
Really,
no.
as
You
low
tricked it.
as
And
low.
those emails get marked as spam. What I always say is, if you act like a spam, even if you are not a spammer, even if you're saying, well, what I'm doing is good. I'm selling a good product. I'm pitching good policies on a campaign. If you act like a spammer, the inbox will treat you like a spammer. And
Definitely.
so I look at politics campaigns often as examples of what not to do. I'll point to my clients and go, look, you're sending an email, for instance. A lot of not for profits like to send the fake forward or fake reply kind of email. It'll be RE colon
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hourly to make it seem like someone has forwarded the email. And teams will say, well, they work. Well, yeah, but think about the trust that you lose with your audience when they open the email and realize, well, they thought this email was something that someone had forwarded to them. And in fact, it's a marketing message trying to get them to buy something or give money.
Hmm.
Will some people give? Yes, you've gotten their attention, but they lose their effectiveness every time you do them. And some readers will go, you tricked me. I don't like being tricked. You're done. You're out of my inbox. I'm not going to let you back in. So to
Could
me,
be.
those strategies are risky. They're deceptive. I think we can find a better way to build trust and build the relationship and get people to take the action without having to trick them to do what we want.
Yeah. And also it affects the deliverability to other inboxes because once marked as spam, then it's a bad roller coaster coming.
Absolutely.
Let's also switch gears on a different topic. Can you share with us your thoughts regarding the email list size? Is a good, of course, we want more subscribers, but does it like lower the quality as we get more? Is it a relationship there?
Everyone needs to set the right expectations for their list based on how they make money and what type of business they operate in. So I'll give you an example, personal example, because this is the case with my newsletter list. It was 5 years ago this summer, actually 5 years ago this month, I left my job at the New Yorker where I was working as director of newsletters and started Inbox Collective. 5 years, amazing that I've had this run. I'm very grateful for it. And when I left to start this job, I had about 1,750 email subscribers. I was starting a consulting business and I was starting to get on a monthly basis several people reaching out to me and saying, we'd like to work with you. It was very exciting. I was able to build a business from a pretty small email list because of the way I monetized. And to be perfectly honest, after I launched the newsletter 5 years ago, I really stopped caring about how many people were on my email list. I don't care if there's about 11,000 people on my email list right now. But if I had 11 million, I wouldn't be doing anything all that different. It doesn't change the way that I operate my business. For my business, a small list was totally fine. But for a business that monetizes through sales of a low value product, a subscription kind of thing, people who are monetizing their newsletter via advertisements, but you may need to have a much bigger list. I work with a lot of newsrooms and publishers who advertising is their big revenue stream. That's their number one thing.
Hmm.
And for them, they need a larger email list often in order to monetize because, I have a daily newsletter about what's happening in the world, and it appeals to a pretty broad audience, and our advertisers are looking to reach the widest possible audience. So I need to keep growing. but more niche audiences, B2B sorts of newsletters, for instance, or people who are selling a product to a very specific type of customer. It's a slightly different story. I'm a parent now. My wife and I, we now have a 1-year-old, and a lot of the products that we are being sold to, things to buy, for instance, subscription boxes around baby clothing. Well, our son keeps getting bigger and bigger. So if we like that company that's selling us, infant clothing, as our son gets bigger, well, he's going to need new clothing when he, turns 1 and then 2 and 5 and 10. And so if we have a good relationship with that brand, we're probably going to keep coming back to buy new stuff, not just every year, but every couple months at the rate that our son is growing. And so a brand like that might say, well, if we have a smaller but more loyal audience, we don't need to have 1 million subscribers or 10
You
million
know,
subscribers. We need the right subscribers. The short answer is, like a lot of things, it does depend, but I do think bigger is not always better. In some
Mhm.
cases, depending on your business model, you do need more subscribers, but not everyone needs to grow and grow and grow. And keep in mind, it's only worth growing if you can bring in the right type of audience. That business that's selling clothes to parents, well, if we're bringing in parents, but they're the wrong types of parents, we sell clothes for kids age 0 to 5. If we're doing our targeting wrong and we're bringing in parents, but they're parents of teenagers, that's the wrong audience for us. We're not going to be able to sell anything to them. Doesn't matter how many of them we have, we're not going to be able to sell stuff to them. So we have to make sure, if we do grow, if you're bringing in one person today or 1,000 people today or 1 million people today, are they the right people who are actually going to engage with us, want a relationship with us, buy stuff from us?
And also, this backfires. If you have big list with people not opening, then the Gmails and the Yahoos of the world notice that, and then they start not delivering your emails in their inbox.
Absolutely. You
Um,
want to be able to grow. Yana Tori Aspraki, who writes the Ask a Deliverability column for Inbox Collective and is a fine deliverability consultant, always says, as your list grows, engagement needs to grow with it. If we see the list growth go up and the engagement start to drop, that is a huge, huge red flag. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 million people on your list, if your emails all go to spam.
Definitely, as simple as that. I was listening to a podcast from a lady, which I think I don't know the lady, but maybe you know her. Her name is Cody Sanchez
Hmm.
in US, and she's talking about investment, I guess, but also like personal development, and she's quite outspoken. And she said one of her businesses is her email list. So it's like a line of business, the email list, which I think she monetizes through paid advertising
Hmm.
to her subscribers.
Hmm.
Does it make sense? Can you make a business out of a email list?
Absolutely. In the US, but now increasingly around the world as well, thanks to some of the tools that are out there. There are a lot of different platforms that offer different monetization options. There are certainly things like paid subscriptions or memberships. There's
Mhm.
advertising platforms that you can tie into just about any email platform that you want to use. Uh, I think I look at a lot of the creators out there, and Cody is a really good example of this, where you have advertisements, you have paid offerings where you can buy ebooks and other products, you can buy community-based products. I want to get access to this community of smart people.
Mhm.
People are selling, individuals are selling events. I want to buy a ticket to this conference that Cody is speaking at or running, that sort of thing. Yeah, you can absolutely build an entire business just based around a newsletter at this point, because people are building a relationship with you, they're getting to know you, and if they want to learn more from you, well, I could buy a product from them, membership, subscription, ebook, a ticket, or I could monetize that person through things like ads or affiliate links. My newsletter is a good example of that. I make recommendations for people around different tools
Mhm.
that might help them with their newsletter strategy. And I always say, hey, for a lot of these tools, I do have an affiliate relationship with them. These are tools that I like, that I test, that I use, or that my clients use, and that I am happy to recommend. I try to be pretty particular about what I recommend. I don't want to recommend everything, and certainly for my audience, I write about newsletters. If I went out to my audience and said, I want to tell you about this great product to help you cook meals faster. It's a delivery service that's going to deliver fresh meals to your home 5 days a week so you can cook. People would go, Dan, you're really nice and everything, and I like your advice about email, but I don't know if you know how to cook. I don't
Yeah.
really care if you know how to cook. You have to be particular about that sort of thing. But yes, absolutely, more and more. And I work with a number of these writers who have built their own business around newsletters. Right, some writers who had already built up a following through social media or a podcast and then expanded into newsletters, but many who are going the other way. I've built up a newsletter audience. Now I'm launching a paid community. Now I'm launching events. Now I'm going out and getting a book deal because I have an audience that is loyal, that loves to read me. And I know that, with my 25,000, my 50,000, my 100,000 subscribers, that publisher says, well, these readers love you. We think we're going to be able to go out and we're going to be able to sell 5 or 10,000 copies of a book right away just to your newsletter audience. Fantastic. We'd love to work with you. We'd love you to write a book for us. So yeah, absolutely. There are great newsletter-based businesses out there that I'm seeing.
I think also Mark Mason, who wrote this book about giving or not giving, something about life,
Mhm.
also started from some kind of newsletter or article. In the end, maybe a bit of a technical question for you. Are you familiar with the idea of domain reputation regarding the deliverability of your emails? Can we
Sure.
improve that? What can we do? Maybe if we get a bad domain reputation, let's say with Gmail, how can we fix that?
So there's a few pieces of advice that I always share when there are reputation sort of issues. One is that hopefully everyone listening to this podcast has already done this, but if not, set up things like Google Postmaster to track the reputation of your domain. Remember a few years ago, I worked with a business that they had made a big mistake. They had sent out an email to literally every email address they had ever collected over the course of a few years, including readers who had not opened or engaged with newsletters in years. It was something they had sent out a privacy policy update. Things had gone really, 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 really poorly. All of a sudden, all of their emails were going to spam. So we set up Google Postmaster right away, and we're able to track over the course of a couple of weeks as we implemented new strategies, able to track their reputation. All right, things were bad, then things got a little better. Now things are pretty good. And as things got better, we were able to send to more and more subscribers. Stuff that I recommend. One, Google Postmaster is a must. Track that
It's
sort of
free,
thing.
it's easy, it's fast.
There's no reason that you shouldn't do it. Everyone should be doing this sort of thing. Make sure that you've gone through all the authentication steps that you're supposed to. SPF, DKIM, DMARC. There's a lot of great resources out there. I published a few on inboxcollective.com that walk you through step by step how to set these sorts of things up. Make sure you've done that correctly. And if you are seeing a bad reputation, all right, what can you do? One is
That's
that
the question. What can you do?
yeah. So for me, one is start small. No one likes hearing that you're going to have to cut back on the number of emails that you're sending every day, but you may have to make some cuts. You may have to say, in the short term, to get back to where we want, to get back to where we want to go in the long term, we're going to have to make some changes in the short term. The short term might mean, let's say I have 100,000 people on my email list. I may not be sending to 100,000 people for the next couple of weeks. I may be sending to 5 to 10,000 people who always engage with my newsletters, sending to them, building back my reputation, making sure Gmail and Yahoo and Outlook and the other inboxes see people opening and engaging with my emails. I may be asking questions of people, asking them to hit reply, to tell me something, to engage with them one-to-one, because the inboxes like seeing personal engagement. I may be driving people to click because any positive signals, a click, a reply, someone adding your
Okay.
email to a folder or starring your email, any of those sorts of things send a signal, hey, these emails are valuable. Nobody, gets an email from Delta Airlines and goes, oh, this email is so great. I want to hit reply and let the CEO know that I love flying their airline. No one stars that email from Delta Airlines. I got to come back to this email. It was such a great email. People don't engage in that way. I like Delta Airlines. I fly them, but I don't engage with their emails in that way. But if I get an email from an organization or a brand or a person that I like, I might star it or reply to it or add it to a folder to save for later. So I want people to think around actions. Can we get them? Can we get our audience to engage with our newsletter in an unusually personal way? And I often tell teams, cut back on your email list, send to your engaged list, then start to work through the tiers. So we sent to our most engaged list for a week. We started to see our reputation build back in Gmail. Now we're going to send to a few thousand more people next week and a few thousand more people the week after that, and slowly ramp up until we get back to our full list.
Yeah.
But it takes time. There are no magic fixes. There
Mhm.
are also tools out there that you can use for things like seed testing to see if your emails are landing in certain folders within the inbox. That can be helpful as well on a limited basis. It's not 100% accurate because every inbox is a little bit different, but
It's
those can be
personalized
useful
to
too.
the receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all unique to the receiver. So, if the seed testing says, "Oh, well, your numbers are great," well, you may not be seeing that across your whole list because what the seed tests see and what your audience sees are slightly
Yeah.
different. It's not a one-to-one match.
And also the other way, maybe you are receiving in spam because you did something and the other people are just receiving in inbox. We're running out of time, but I need to ask you one more question if you promise a short answer.
Sure.
And that uh, is there a thing about new domains like waiting for 4 weeks to get a reputation? Is this true or it's just a myth?
I think if you asked 25 deliverability experts, of which, for what it's worth, I would not I'm still learning new things literally every month about deliverability. And I've worked in the email space for 12 years. There are people who all they do is think about deliverability all day. And if you ask them, they would give you 25 different answers if you ask 25 of them. Um, there is
What's yours?
no there isn't a short answer is no, there isn't a hard and fast thing. In general, I always tell teams if they're starting, my default answer is if you're getting started with a new domain, build up slowly because I would rather you take a little bit more time to build that reputation of the inbox. Same thing is true with a new IP address as well. To build up that reputation, moving more, a little more slowly is always a safer option than moving too quickly. Because if you move too quickly and something goes wrong, you may end up spending a lot longer to build back that reputation and get back into
Mhm.
the inbox. So I always tell teams to be more cautious. To me, direction is more important than speed. A few small steps in the right direction are better than big leaps forward.
Nice. This is good advice for life, actually. We can extend it to everything. In the end, please share with our audience where they can reach out to you.
So you can find me on inboxcollective.com. We publish stories every week about the email space, and you can sign up for my newsletter there, where I send an email every week with whatever our latest story is and some other links from around the world of email. And I'm on LinkedIn. If you search for Dan Oshinsky, I do still exist on other platforms like Twitter or whatever they're calling it now, but I don't think I've sent a tweet in a few years. So if you're tweeting at me, you may be waiting a very long time for a reply.
Just one 5 seconds. I searched for Twitter in my phone, and I got no results. I said, "What do you mean no results?" I said, "No, it's X."
It's
So
X
yeah,
now.
everything changed. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you for sharing all this insight with us, and have an amazing morning back there in the US.
Thank you for having me.